Season 3, Episode 1, Kyle Bradway is Nitromancer, is the whopping full 30-minute comedy return of Party Down, the cult classic series that ran on Starz over a decade ago. On this podcast, we like to discuss the latest installment of a different series every show. It's February 28th. Welcome to today's episode.
You watched the original Party Down, right?
Yep.
You watched the first two seasons?
Mm-hmm.
How well do you know the show?
Not very well. I just remember everybody who was in it, and I remember the overall plot details. I remember some of the guest stars, too. You had Veronica Mars herself, because it was created by the Veronica Mars people.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of the reason Ken Marino was even in this show and cast in it originally.
Yeah, and I remembered enough where when I watched this episode, when they jumped back into those personalities, I was like, yes.
Okay, so what you say about personalities, because I have a game here. It's quotes said in the original two seasons of the show, and I wanted to see if you could guess which characters they were, and it's like multiple choice because I have 4 options.
Oh, no. Yeah, I'm not going to do well at this, but yeah,
okay.
Go ahead.
So the first quote is, the 4 P's and 1 B, politeness, professionalism, perfectionism, proactive, be on time.
Oh, that sounds like Ron.
Yes, you got that right. Then I have to do the multiple choice. Second one is, it's not lying, it's acting. Look, I was an actor. It's easy. You just use the true bits and you take the fake bits.
Oh, wow. That's Constance? Is that Jane Lynch?
No, but I have the 4 options. It's either Ron, Kyle, Henry, or Bobby St. Brown, played by Jennifer Coolidge.
Oh, so it could be someone who's not in the original cast. Is that
yeah.
right? Okay, well then, we go through the options again?
Ron, Kyle, Henry, Bobby St. Brown.
Bobby St. Brown.
No, it was by Henry.
Henry? Oh, okay.
Third one is, you know acting is like crime, but instead of guns or clubs, I assault you with emotions. That was either Roman, Constance, Henry, or Kyle.
I mean, Kyle?
Yeah, you got that right.
All right.
And then the last one is, the only way I'm Googling you in 10 years is if you get very creative in the way that you kill yourself. Kyle, Roman, Casey, or Lydia.
Casey?
No,
Sorry.
that was Roman.
Oh, okay.
So,
yeah, all right. No, that makes sense. He's the more cynical of the two. But Casey did have, like, that smart aleck thing. It was really sad to not see her in this season.
Yeah, so scheduling played a huge conflict with everyone. In fact, the whole cast said it was a miracle they were even able to get 6 episodes done.
Mm-hmm.
And that's different from the first 2 seasons, which were both 10 episodes. But Lizzie Kaplan just couldn't do it because I think she was doing the Fleshman is in Trouble series and the upcoming Fatal Attraction series.
It is nuts how, like, every single one of them went on to, like, do a pretty big show.
Yeah, in fact, Adam Scott is shooting Severance Season 2, and Jane Lynch is on Broadway, at least as of now, doing a show called Funny Girl.
I mean, not even just now, though, because Adam Scott before Severance was well known for Parks and Rec, which I think he got right after Party Down, or, like, during it. And then Lizzie Kaplan also had Masters of Sex for a while, and she's been in a ton of stuff. Martin Short, Silicon Valley, Spider-Man, Ken Marino. It's like if you don't recognize him from some comedy over the last couple of years, then you're not watching TV or movies. And then Jane Lynch, Glee, Weakest Link. Though Glee was, I think, during Party Down. And then Ryan Hansen.
That's part of the reason she couldn't show up in season 2 of Party Down, that she was only in 1 season.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. She left in the second season.
Martin Starr isn't doing Tulsa King, which is filming season 2 as of now. Ryan Hansen, as you were saying, he did his like YouTube Red series.
Ryan Hansen solves crimes on television. Yes. That was probably the smallest show, but it made fun of itself for that exact reason. And I think they even brought in a lot of the Party Down folks into that show for like a reunion type of episode.
Just to finish up on Kaplan, she did like send cupcakes to the Stories photo shoot and said that if there was a season 4 that she would not miss it.
Oh, good.
So.
Okay, no, that makes me happy. I'm also happy they didn't like kill her character off or anything. They actually addressed it. They said that she'd made it big, that she'd gone on to SNL, that then she had like married some big guy, or like some big Hollywood guy, and then Henry also got married on his own and then has kids now. So it's going to be interesting how, like, they're first of all going to have to break him up because he's going to end up with the love interest of Evie this season.
Yep.
And that's played by
Jennifer Gardner,
who looks a little bit like Lizzie Kaplan, but not that much.
The funniest thing about Jennifer Gardner being cast in this role is that they didn't have her in mind, but they were like, we wanted Jennifer Gardner type. And then when they went to her, she was just like, yeah, I'll do it. And they were really surprised, but that's how they were able to get them. One of the things I found best about this episode was the amount of cameos, or at least guest stars, that I did not expect to be in it. like Jennifer Garner, James Marsden, Quinta Brunson, and Fran Kranz.
I think
like,
at
out of
this point
nowhere.
it's not only gained a cult following, but also like a Hollywood following because of how much that comedy based from the Veronica Mars world has stretched. Like J.K. Simmons, James Franco later on, though I don't think he would appear in this type of series. But it's just a fun. I remember back then I was like, this is really good. And then I also knew that not enough people were watching it. It got canceled.
Yeah, because viewership was incredibly down.
But like it still felt that it had meat on the bone. So unlike with like Arrested Development, I know people felt that that got canceled too soon, but when they brought it back on Netflix, it just wasn't the same. This one, first of all, was brought back by Stars. So that's like, I'm surprised Stars is still capable of bringing back a show like this. They canceled it at the time because they were trying to drift into reality. I know they've tried to sell themselves a few times to different networks and get swallowed up. And yet they're bringing back this show almost like 12 years later, and they're saying, hey, we can have the original personalities, and for the most part I think this show is a success. I think it was really funny. I think everybody was able to jump back in, and honestly, if this had only been a one-off, like a 30-minute like, hey, take a look at this just to make you feel good, I would have accepted it. It didn't feel like the thing about the characters is, unlike Children's Hospital or Angie Tribeca or Burning Love, Ryan Hansen solves crimes on television, it's not that absurd. Like the people feel grounded enough where the comedy is crazy, but like it's almost like This Fool, where you do expect there to be some semblance of reality, and they kept it up 10 years later, bringing it back to this world. It's not like they were all just working the same job still. They all had different lives. But now after the pandemic, it's going to be really cool to see how they interweave everything to get everybody back together.
They got the original writers from the first 2 seasons. This, to me, was what that 90s show, I feel like, wanted to be. Or at least what a lot of reunion shows want to be. But they actually kept the same cast. And they kept the characters the same. And it was still funny. I think that it really is.
That's to my point, what I was just saying, is that like the 70s show, that 70s show ended after it kind of jumped the shark.
Yeah.
Party Down never jumped the shark before it ended, and it ended so quickly into its life. It's 2 seasons. It's not that much time. So bringing it back, it really did feel like it was an authentic callback, as opposed to at that 70s show where it felt in like a big cash-in. And even if they had brought in all the characters from that 70s show and made them do 10 episodes, it would have been nostalgic, and it probably would have had a few funny jokes. But it would have been like if you brought back The Office now, it wouldn't be the same.
It won't work as well.
This felt borderline close to the same. It felt like if you were to bring back The League now, and honestly, the setting of this episode in that bar looked a lot like The League, and some of the guest star appearances and stuff. It's very related to that show, just not as, well, sometimes it's crass. It doesn't have a Jason Mantzoukas character.
This thing, it was created by John Enbaum, Rob Thomas, Dan Etheridge, and did you know Paul Rudd created this as well?
I did see his name.
Wasn't sure if you knew that. Yeah, Brian Gordon, he directed this episode. He's worked on some movies, but then kind of went exclusively to TV in 1995. And yeah, I really enjoyed this. What would you give this episode?
You keep on talking about this episode, but you're not talking about what's in it. So we find out that Kyle Bradbury, played by Ryan Hansen, has finally made it big. That was his whole gist in his first 2 seasons, is he was supposed to be the young up-and-comer guy who was... And so it reminded me a lot of Entourage, where Vinny got the Aquaman role, but he's got a Nitromancer. You see all these poster boards for him, but then what happens? A video leaks. Oh, he's at this big party gathering at this bar, and he's hired Party Down. And guess who still works for Party Down? The only one from the original cast, besides Ron, who leads the whole thing, is Roman. Yeah. And so he's making sarcastic remarks back and forth. They used to have a thing, kind of like his Silicon Valley character with Kumail Nanjiani. I forget their names in that show. But where am I going with this? Oh, so video leaks, and it shows that Kyle's past band that he was the lead singer of, Karma Rocket, had played a song at a wedding where he was saying some borderline Nazi, anti-Semitic things that he didn't even realize were so bad. And so then he has to work on an apology video with one of the influencer people who are working the Party Down station. But then Ron breaks his phone, not realizing it's Kyle's phone, and then he kind of gets fired from the part. Quinta Brunson like is his agent, and she says we'll be fine, and then she goes and signs someone else.
Well, the apology video was probably one of my favorite parts because I kept on laughing.
It reminded me so much of the Ryan Hansen.
He was checking like what the best filter was to use on it, and then also.
And as an Instagram influencer, you are aware of these jokes.
No.
Okay.
But, Fran Kranz ended up being the one that leaked the video. That's what's revealed at the very ending of it.
Well, I don't know what his name is in the show, but he was the guitarist, and he was giving off some weird vibes. That was also like an It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia joke, where they just kept on going back to the weird character, kind of like the Jimmy Simpsons character in there. And he just called himself the left hand, and at the very end, he just disappeared from the face of the earth. I had a few favorite jokes in this. First of all, Ken Marino, when he came in there and he had gray hair, I thought it was real. I was like, oh man, so they are showing a little bit of age here. And then later on, you find out it was just gray paint because he had gotten a bad review saying that he looked too young or something. And then Martin Short, Roman De Beers, his cynical, astute like view of the world, I had completely missed. I don't remember it as well, but like he was really on top of things here, despite the fact that he was also sort of a loser. So I found that funny.
I know that the creators, just kind of piggybacking off of that, the creators said that they wanted to make the characters grow up. Like they didn't want everyone to be in the same place as they were back in 2012 when the show originally ended. Yeah, because that would just be really depressing to show that no one had like kind of.
Well, it's also pretty funny though. And then Jane Lynch's character got really rich, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm used to seeing her playing a smart aleck villain. Even on The Weakest Link, when she hosts that show, she's like insulting people constantly. And in this show, it's like, even if she's insulting people, she's also trying to be a little nice, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, she immediately said yes when she got the call. That's what I think also is so great about this show. It's that
$10 million.
Everyone you can tell is like just friends with each other, and the chemistry just like bounces off the screen. Yeah,
I just thought it was funny. The high school teacher joke also, where Ryan Hansen looks at, I'm going to keep on referring to them by their real names, but where Kyle looks at Henry and he's like, so what are you doing these days? And he's like, I'm a high school teacher. Oh, cool. On what show? Yeah. And so like all the jokes are there. It reminded me a little bit of like if they had thrown a murder in there, it would be like the after party, because that was also sort of a reunion. I already mentioned this fool, but specifically Ron, because the way that he tries to control Party Down, and Ron does seem nicer in the reboot. Like, if you watch the original series, Ken Marino is pretty mean. Like, he's dumb and he's mean, and he's a boss who just wants to own the company. And so him actually getting the chance to here is pretty funny. And then him immediately losing the company because of 14 months in COVID at the very end there is also hilarious.
Did you know that he's part of a band? Apparently with Joel Truglio, David Wayne, and Weird Al Yankovic. He's in a middle-aged man band.
Huh. Okay. I mean,
I know that originally. You were talking about things that you compare it to. I would almost compare this 100% to Curb Your Enthusiasm, which is why whenever I'm talking about the characters, I'm also using their actual names.
It's not that real, though, because they're not making fun. Like, James Marsden was not playing James Marsden.
I meant the more like the type of humor that they had and the tone that it was going for. Mm-hmm. I felt that was very connected to it.
It's also crazy, though, how, like, 10 years ago doesn't feel that long, but all the influencer jokes and the fact that there was the guy with the dreadlocks and he was like, yeah, you got to measure your content. I'm not into acting, blah, blah, blah. It feels like that would have fit into the show back then.
Yeah. But it's even more so a case now.
Well, no, like even 7 years ago, I feel like that joke was just starting to come about. But like 10 years ago just was too much. Like it was before that. Even though smartphones existed, the internet existed, people were putting out their own YouTube videos. It just was not the same. People hadn't gotten the same type of fame. Vine hadn't existed yet. I guess the biggest internet sensations you'd be talking about are like Smosh and PewDiePie. I don't know.
And you know that they were actually planning on doing a Party Down movie like a couple years ago.
Yeah, and I'm happy they decided to do this instead.
I don't know how they would have been able to do a movie. Like it doesn't
just
seem
like the Veronica Mars movie. They did 2 of those, didn't they?
I think that Party Down was ahead of its time. I mean, like, that's part of the reason why I don't think it became popular until really it hit streaming platforms and people had a connection with it.
Until it hit, like, Netflix. But that was only a couple years after it left the air.
Yeah, but that was still, like, the early 2010s.
I remember when I saw Adam Scott show up in Parks and Rec, I was disappointed because I thought, okay, well, that means Party Down really isn't going to come back.
I mean, Parks and Rec, again, you can like talk about any of these TV shows, even though that's a mockumentary, it still feels like that's a good connection with Party Down.
But out of all the shows to come back, if Parks and Rec had said we can do another season, or Party Down said we can do another season, I think I would have still picked Party Down.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Well, no,
I would go with the
99% of people would not.
No,
pick
I know,
that.
but I would as well. Parks and Rec, yeah, it's a great show, but also it was more family oriented in that way. So I actually do find Party Down funnier than Parks and Rec.
What was the Don Cheadle show that they could improv the entire time, and it was like it also had the Veronica Mars lady in
like
it.
Ben Schwartz as well.
Yeah, House of Lies. Is that what it was called? Yeah, I think it was House of Lies. Okay, anyways, go ahead.
The reviews for this season, it's received critical acclaim. It has a 93% on Rotten Tomatoes and 8.2 on IMDb. Collider gave a favorable review saying, Party Down Season 3 is a welcome return that makes one wish this show never went away in the first place. IGN gave the first 5 episodes which were given to them for this season. They awarded it a 9 out of 10. And then AV Club titled their review Party Down Season 3 premiere, a rare TV revival that works. They gave the premiere a B+.
And it's so simple and it's so stupid, and yet it still felt way more authentic than 99% of the things that come back. That's why I'm also afraid about a Parks and Rec thing that returns, because I feel like it would just be a lot of winking at the camera, being like, hey, we're doing this for you, fans. And this, it just felt like those characters had returned 10 years later just to show us what was going on. Almost like they didn't want to be there. Because, again, with Henry, he's kind of playing a weird Adam Scottish version of himself, where he's a narcissist, and not a narcissist. What's the word I'm looking for? Where he's a little bitter still.
Yeah,
you know,
obviously.
And they also put in the joke where Jennifer Gardner or Evie realized that he was the guy from what's the tagline? Are we having fun yet?
And James Marsden did that too. In March 2021, Season 3 was listed in development. In November 2021, a 6-episode revival of the series was ordered by Starz, and filming took place in between January and March of 2022. I would give this episode like a 9 out of 10.
I would have given it a 9 out of 10, but without Kaplan's character, Kaplan, whatever, how do you say
Kaplan.
that? Kaplan, there you go. An 8. I will give it an 8. Well, thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next episode. Hope you enjoyed this one. Bye.
Bye.